Greetings, bloggers, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here at you again with another edition of this week's episode. You're in here from Dustin's Dynasty, by the way, if I forgot to, as I forgot to mention that in my intro. If you haven't been around here for a while, I've been doing these blogs for about 5 years now. We're almost coming up on 400. In addition to that, I've been living this autism thing most of my life. I was diagnosed in 1998 at the age of 13. I have had a part-time job for over 15 years, and I've been living on my own for over seven. So I've done the things necessary to live this life that we have autism and learning how to manage the things that come with autism. And one of those things I would say, that is one of the biggest things that has been an issue for me is learning how to self-advocate and learning the proper word choice when self-advocating or feeling passionate about something. Oftentimes, when I used to be upset or be angry or not see the entire picture of what is indeed going on, because sometimes as autistic people, we don't see the whole picture of what's going on. We often sometimes see things as we want to see them. We see them as how does it affect us? How is our safety? How is our well-being? How are we going to be able to get through things? Sometimes I, for one, experience anxiety, and the sense of that is that I'm always sensing danger, or I'm always wanting to avoid something or the other out of fear of something bad happening. And sometimes, that wants me to back down from something out of fear or trying something new out of fear. And, sometimes we have to learn, and I have had to learn this year to speak up and say things. And sometimes in the past, when I have spoken up, I hadn't always used the correct word choice. And sometimes when I say things, I don't say things that are in the fashion of statements that would affect me directly. I would want to point out the obvious or point out things that I wanted to pass the blame on others or call others out or m make put downs about others just to insinuate them and make them feel a certain way about themselves so that I felt some sort of sick gratification in order to feel empowered. But in reality, that is not what self-advocacy is. There is empowerment when we advocate for what we want, but we have to do it in the right way. And that means that it doesn't include us reacting so bad that it draws the attention of not only the person that we are expressing our concern or we're advocating to, but others too. And seeing that and being in that way, and when we're in that sense of fear or we worry or we sense we fear danger or we want to call something out for what it is or call what we think is a problem or feel that we're in fear, sometimes we overreact or we go into a site of a meltdown. And for me, I think one of the biggest things that started the ball rolling, or at least started it, not didn't get it to where it is today, but seeing those that look up to me and value me as a person, seeing that the look on their face or the shock that they had when I would be this way and react in a way that was very unbecoming of me and not appropriate at all. Maybe just because I was out of fear of something, when in reality, I know that things will be met And, sometimes we do act out of fear. But for me, I think when I was acting out of fear, I wanted to, I didn't, I lost all the skill or all the ability that I had to hold myself in a to restrain myself would be the more appropriate word in a emotional way so that I didn't let my emotions or my intertwine with my thoughts and let those overtake me into a point where I am very belligerent with someone or I put someone down because they're not seeing my way of things or they're not meeting my demands in the way that I think they should be. And that was another thing too. I had to realize that I don't have control over everything. I don't have the power to make things happen the way that I think they should be. And I even though, I would used to think that I can say things, but I used to think that it had to be my way and that I had to feel the way that it had to be for me and, forget anyone else's needs. But as time has evolved, I have become more understanding and more welcoming of others into my life and knowing that they have issues too, and that I have to be willing and accepting of their needs just as much as I have my own needs, and that, advocating isn't necessarily, or self-advocacy is not necessarily finding what I want necessarily, but it is getting what I need to make sure that I am safe and the needs that I need to have met are met in a nice, appropriate, and proper manner, and not and that I'm free from harm and that my rights are being met. And it's not the fact that you don't promise me the world just because I get upset and I throw a fit to get my way. And I had to learn that the hard way. You can't just shout your demands and cause a scene to get your way anymore. That was, I had to learn to let that go. I had to learn to accept what is here, what is now, even though what is here and what is now is different from what used to be, and learning how to adapt my life and learn to live with it, but also learn to advocate when necessary for what I need while understanding what I need is for what I need and not so much of how I want things to be or that, I can't have everything and people can't promise the world to me just because of who I am or what I want them to do. Sometimes it means I have to make sacrifices for others. I have to maybe sit on the bus a little longer. Maybe I'll have to go for a ride. Maybe I have to start my day a little early. And for one who had issues with that, is now accepted that and can will and uses that time to my advantage to reflect or work through those challenges that I once experienced, but being better and learning how to adapt to those situations in a much better way. I hope, that in the coming year that I do better with that and that I don't, with that and along with having, ruminating thoughts and overthinking about things that I don't do that by knowing that I can do other things to work through those emotions or those thoughts that I'm having in a much better and defined way so that I don't overreact or that I don't just sit and sulk and feel bad about myself. That, it just takes away so much of the void, so much of the time that I have had with myself, just letting things go away. Now, granted, there's time for rest and rest too is productive in its own way. But I think, the thing is, I can't let this stuff that I think I want to fix or I want to have power and control and have promised the world to me, I've had to understand and still am understanding in my own way that things like you just can't have everything that you want. And sometimes we individuals take self-advocacy as standing up for yourself and having people promise the world to you. But, unfortunately, that's not the case. And, I have understood that speaking for yourself or self-advocacy in a way is, standing up for what you need and for well, the things that you need and not so much what you want or the way you want things or having the world promised to you. That just I had to learn to let that go in me, and I had to learn also that even with change, even as hard as it is, that there's things that are just going to happen, and that I have to understand my own sense of safety, my own that my needs are met, and it may not be in the way that I want them to be or the way I think they should be, but that doesn't give me a pass and it doesn't give me the power to just voice my distaste or what I'm thinking just because it's there. And people with my end of the autism spectrum often say what's on their mind, and they get very upset, or they say things that are hurting to others or put down others like I have in the past. And I've had to learn that you just don't do that. You can't make people feel bad. You can't put people down. You can't use vulgar language as a way of enhancing your way to get what you want, because that doesn't make you look good as a person. It doesn't show that you really can be a good person and do what is expected. Yes, things happen from time to time. Yes, you may use the improper word choice from moment to moment, but when it becomes a constant habit or a way of, expressing yourself that gets to be a little too much or causes attention to others or, makes, a bigger issue out of something that really isn't an issue within itself, but, you have to see that, you know, there's people looking to you if especially in my situation, that would never expect me to act that way. And it's always reminding myself of there's people around me sometimes, or people even in the store that I may come across that I may not even know is in my vicinity, that I have to show that example all the time. And it may intertwine with autistically masking, but isn't that what the world wants? I mean, not so much in a masking way, but being able to control myself and restrain myself, because I indeed have worked hard on those skills and have the necessary tools that I have learned to accept and be a part of my life, over the past year or so, that helped me do that in its own way, so it can, get me through the things that are unpleasant or may cause irritability or may cause me to get angry. And for me to let those skills or what we work so hard for in the outside world to just go away when we're hit with this trigger or this stressor that wants us to react in a way that is unhealthy and inappropriate. I had to learn that that's just not okay, and that I have to do better for myself when it comes to working at letting go of that and not letting that those old habits rebrew back up and be a part of what is going on, what the big picture is, what I don't really want. And I had to understand that's not something I want. I want to be the example that everybody knows I can be when I have the power to be that person and be that good person that people know I can be. And that, that's just somebody I want to be and who I want to show the world that indeed I can be the example. And in fact, I have gotten awards for being the example. And granted, I've had many setbacks since then, even the night of. But I can do better. I can be a better person. I know I can be a better person and do what's right. It just takes a little, strength and power, and I have that. So, I think I can do that, and I'm going to. And that is my intention for 2026 anyway, you know. But we'll work through that. I want to thank you for listening today. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, share, subscribe. We appreciate it. Um, if you haven't seen my new artwork on my channels, I appreciate that. I much appreciate that to the friend who does that for me. He's always doing that, and it's ironic, the way we started our friendship many years ago that I would never have dreamed that happening, but it did, and I'm truly grateful. If you haven't already, be sure to follow on Facebook, Instagram, X, Pinterest. That handle is Dustin's Dynasty. I'm on the web. That address is www.dustinsdynastyusa.com. And lastly, you will find all my logos, and all my logos, I'm sorry, all my signups, all my podcasting platforms, all my socials. That is Dustin's Dynasty under Linktree. Again, I want to thank you for listening. Let's have a happy new year. Let's remember that we are loved, we matter, we're enough, and have a good new year. And end of 2025, we'll see you in 2026. And take care of yourselves, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll talk at you soon. Bye for now.